Welcome to Mortified, the Friendship Quest, a podcast where two long-distance friends bounce media recommendations, all in hopes the other will like it. I'm Aaron.
And I'm an ass you gotta rescue.
And this week, we embark on a new franchise tour with the 2001 animated classic, Shrek. Before we extol the virtues of monster fucking, remember you can help us on Mortified the Legitimacy Quest by subscribing to us on YouTube, iTunes, or Spotify, following us on Tumblr, @MortifiedPod, and also rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts.
Yes, someday we will actually change the script so you can read it comfortably.
But not today.
Not today.
Leyla,
Aaron.
what was your first Shrek experience?
I saw this flick in the theaters.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that, because this we were both like pretty young, but also old enough to go see movies in theaters when this came out. So yeah, do you recall any of that?
Did I see this flick in the theaters? Hold on, I'm trying to like reconcile something because I looked it up and this thing came out April of 2001, right?
May in America. Had you moved to America by this point?
No, so I'm thinking of Shrek 2.
Okay.
So this I must have seen on DVD, and then I must have seen Shrek 2 in the theaters because I saw one of the two in the theaters because 3 and 4 I only saw recently, like during the pandemic when I was running out of things to watch. During the lockdown portion of the pandemic. COVID is still a thing, but I can't remember where the fuck I've seen one.
I mean, I feel
At
like
school,
one
probably.
is one of those things where it's like you've culturally osmosed it. Like maybe you saw it like during school when somebody was like, okay, I don't want to teach today, I'm just going to put on a DVD. Or you've just like been on YouTube for long enough that you've kind of seen bits of it in aggregate. But yeah, no, do you remember, you don't remember at all, your actual first Shrek experience?
No, I can't remember the first time I watched any of them, like, concretely. They're just all kind of a part of me now.
I think that's also where I come from, right? Because, like, I found myself, like, remembering, like, lines the way you do when you've seen a movie 100 million times. So I was like, I'm pretty sure we had this on DVD. Shrek 1 was, like, one of the best-selling DVD releases, like, in the United States at the time it came out, according to Wikipedia. So, like, I'm sure that's how I've seen it. I don't think I saw it in theaters. I know I saw Shrek 2 in theaters because that was a little bit closer to a theater appropriate age for myself and my sibling. But yeah, I think Shrek is just like one of those, which is like, it kind of hit, at least for you and I, kind of at the time where you're like growing out of being like, truly like the target demo for children's entertainment, right? And you kind of get into the like, Batman smells Robin laid an egg era of like how you perceive children's media, which is like, oh yeah, Barney is stupid. And like, so that's why Shrek, I think definitely hit for people of our generation, kind of hit a certain way, especially with the ways it contrasts itself to Disney. And you know what, 3 years later, I think it holds up pretty well.
I think it's completely fine. I am a big fan of the fact that this was the project that if you worked at DreamWorks, this is where you go to get punished.
Right.
Like if you weren't performing on Prince of Egypt, this is where you got sent.
Yeah, notably, they called it getting Shrek'd, which is hysterical.
So I wonder what the first screening was when that team sat and like watched it and they were like, is this good? Did we accidentally make a good movie?
Right. Like I think everybody's probably heard a lot of the stories about Shrek's production. Like for one, Chris Farley had recorded like 99% of the lines before sadly passing away. He was originally going to be the voice of Shrek, but so then they brought in Mike Myers, who did the whole thing and then did it again in a Scottish accent, which is like just a wild story. Like it seems like this should have been an absolute catastrophe, and somehow it just wasn't, which is frankly incredible.
It just, I mean, like, we're watching it. Obviously, the animation's a little bit dated because the tech was so new. Like you pointed out, this is just a couple years after Ants, which double feature Ants, Bugs Life. Put that on the fucking roadmap.
That's a Mortified bait for sure, yeah.
I've never seen Ants, so that'll be fun. Nope.
You'll have some stuff to say, I bet.
I I bet I will. And then, yeah, it's just, God, I just wonder when they came together and they were like, oh, no, I think this is actually pretty good. And the cool thing is, so the score was done by DreamWorks regular John Powell and then Harry Gregson Williams, another really prolific film and animation composer. And I clocked that bitch. I clocked him on the first time I heard the score. I'm like, is that Gregson Williams? It was jaunty little he loves a little offbeat like march. And that is how much I watched Chicken Run, that I can just like clock a Gregson Williams score.
Did I know this about you, that you're a Chicken Run? I thought you were I thought for a second you were talking about Chicken Little, and I was like, there's no way that's true.
That's so funny, because you said you stopped yourself in the middle saying chicken, and I was like, is he about to call me out for liking Chick-fil-A?
No, God, we are.
I guess.
Yeah, no, we are. It is currently 76 degrees in my apartment. Leyla is currently moving out of their apartment, fully standing, doing this record. So we're a little bit out of it today, listeners. But don't worry. I think. Yeah, a little bit irreverent, a little bit sweaty. I think that's the actual exact...
I'm so sweaty.
Truly.
I'm so
that's
sweaty.
the perfect mindset to talk about Shrek in. So,
absolutely.
Do you want to do the plot? We are swampy. No, my ass is going to be fully liquid by the time we're done with this. So
my back is absolutely wet. I will, yes, I am happy to do it. Let's,
all right.
I'll take us through the plot summary. So... in the outskirts of the nation of Duloc, a perfect kingdom, by the way, perfect, nothing wrong, all the freaks are gone, an ogre named Shrek lives a solitary existence. However, due to Lord Farquaad's demands, all fairy tale creatures are being pushed out of Duloc, sent to resettlement camps, and turned in by their human neighbors. Farquaad, by the way, if you say it fast enough, does sound like fuckwad, and I think that's on purpose, which
completely
is very good.
Intentional, yes.
Also, Farquaad's aspiration is to be king.
Right.
Which we will explore. So, Farquaad seeks to create a perfect kingdom, one without the corruption of magical creatures.
Yeah.
One of these...
I just want, like, straight off the bat, genocidal. Like, just that's the first thing that's happening here is, by the way, the bad guy is doing a genocide. He is moving everybody out. He is selecting people by a certain, I guess, ethnic group. I don't know what you call magical creatures, but they're a certain category of person, and he's saying, I'm going to move you off of the land that you've been in, which is, like, you know, pretty high stakes to start with.
Yeah, pretty heavy topic for a children's movie. But, you know, pre 9/11, different world.
Right. Also, months before 9/11, so this is a wild... The timing of this is just wild.
Yeah. And also why I can't seem to remember... So 9/11 is, like, one of my key, like, life markers. Some Layla lore I'll drop. Because I moved to America the month after. Mm-hmm. October 5th, 2001, I flew into New York City.
Wowie. So,
when someone talks about, like, 9/11 is just, like, a time touchstone for me. So it's pre-9/11, I probably don't know what's going on. If it's post 9/11. Oh, my God.
I knew you moved to America in 2001. I didn't realize you did it post 9/11. Less than a month, you could have seen the ruins of the Twin Towers from the plane. Holy shit.
We were sitting in the middle row, so I didn't... That's one of the things I remember, sitting in the middle row. I also remember having a panic attack and telling my mom that I'm like, I hate this. I hate being in the air. Please, like, when are we going to land? And my mom's just going, you're fine, and falling asleep. Typical of our relationship.
Your airplane fear makes a lot more sense now, actually.
Yes! I flew into New York City a month after watching the Twin Towers go down, and the last major airline accident before the Boeing thing in Alaska Airlines. The last major airline accident that had fatalities was in Buffalo. A plane fucking crashed into a house.
Yeah.
I hate planes.
Yeah, you know what? I think your phobia is justified.
Thank you. Anyway. One of these creatures is a talking donkey who narrowly escapes police capture by running into Shrek, who begrudgingly allows him to sleep in his swamp outside. However, he doesn't know inside donkeys in Shrek's swamp. However, the next day, Shrek wakes up to find all the other displaced creatures in his swamp, which he is not happy about. He vows to find Farquaad and force him to get the creatures off his land. In a very funny scene where he's like, fuck you guys and fuck all of you. I don't want you here. I'm gonna go find this Farquaad. I'm gonna get you out of here, back where you came from. There's this moment of silence, and I start cheering.
Yeah, they want their land back too. I think this is an interesting sequence, not because of its position in the movie, but what it will become later. Because we see all the characters that are going to become like central to the plot of Shrek 2 here.
Yes.
We like, because I know Shrek 2, there's like basically a Mission Impossible sequence, right?
Yes.
So like Pinocchio is there. We get the wolf who is dressed up like a grandma. We get the three blind mice. Like all of the people who are going to end up being like side characters that are important, except for Puss in Boots, are here in this sequence. And it's like very interesting to be like, okay, this is the source material we were given. How is this going to get extrapolated out as, our project of moving through the Shrekiverse continues? So, just interesting to see, like, they really didn't do all that much with these characters that are going to become, iconic, like have full singing roles in the musical, right? So yeah, like just an interesting note that like really, truly nobody expected this to blow up in the way that it did.
No, we'll talk about it when we watch Shrek 2 next month, but like, that I need a hero sequence in Shrek 2 changed my fucking life.
Yeah, no, like top 10 all time movie scenes, yeah.
Yes. So, meanwhile, while all this is happening, Farquaad seeks to legitimize himself as king. He is told by a magic mirror that the only way he can become king is by marrying a princess. Farquaad decides that he will marry Fiona, who is locked away in a dragon-guarded castle. He hosts... So this whole sequence is actually really funny, right? Because we start with the torture scene of the fucking gingerbread man, which, as you pointed out, post 9/11, don't know if that would have flied.
Well, here's the thing. I wondered if it would have flown more post 9/11, considering what America does to its prisoners in the Abu Ghraib prisons. So, like, yeah, it's weird to be like, like 24 famously is cited as an example by like Congress people as effective uses of torture, right? Later on as 9/11 and the America's imperial project in Afghanistan and Iraq becomes, more and more heinous. And I think it's really interesting to take like this instance of being like, oh, we're making fun. We're, dunking a gingerbread man in milk is torture, and being like, where the seeds were already there in American media, in the American consciousness, to be like, yeah, no, torture is something that you do. It is normal. And, kids can understand the concept of torture. Just a wild sequence.
Then that goes into the clean recitation of the Muffin Man, which I think is good. And then they bring in the magic mirror, and the magic mirror begins to host like a version of The Bachelor, like a game show
right.
Of picking the princess. I want to point something out to you here. One of the princesses, one of the choices is Cinderella, Snow White, and then Fiona.
Right.
So the Snow White is also implied to be Farquaad's mom. Maybe that's just in the musical.
What?
But there is a continuity error there a little bit.
Hold on.
She's in the montage, but then I think in the musical it's implied that she's his mom.
How is that? What? Why is that the case?
Continuity, man. I don't know.
Snow White. Yeah, okay. The only thing that's in the Shrek script, like, that I remember being, like, weird is that the mirror goes, although she lives with 7 other men, she's not easy, which is, like, all right. Weird. But yeah, no, that's weird. I mean, I guess, unfortunately for me, we're going to have to watch the Shrek musical as part of the project. So we'll see how that goes, but that's fucked up, I think.
I'm trying so hard to will you to like it. I don't think I'm going to be successful, but
I don't think so either. But I'll give it a fair shake. But I tried to watch it before. We'll see.
Yeah, the T slur threw you off. You just gotta fast forward through that part.
Yeah.
All right. So Farquaad hosts a tournament to decide which of his brave knights will have the honor of rescuing Fiona. Shrek interrupts his tournament, besting all the knights. He's interrupting specifically to talk to Farquaad and tell him to get all the fucking creatures to fuck off. Farquaad then cuts a deal with Shrek, saying he will give the deed to his swamp to Shrek if he rescues Fiona. So he walks in. He is like, Farquaad, I want to talk to you. Farquaad's like, ew, ew, ew. Knights, kill him. The knights start to attack him. There's like a sick little fight sequence.
I love this fight sequence.
It's good. It's the second best fight sequence of the movie. The first one's Fiona's.
Yes.
Fiona's Matrix ass.
Right. No, no, just textually a Matrix reference.
They do that a lot. They reference a lot of really popular films.
Right. And that's like kind of the charm of Shrek, is that like it is parroting a bunch of like media that was popular in the 90s. But yeah, like especially this tournament sequence. One, Avril Lavigne's Reputation is playing throughout this, which is an incredible song. It's very much like pop punk. I don't give a damn about my bad reputation, while Shrek is like doing WWE. Like one point, somebody from the audience yells, "Give him the chair," and Shrek picks up a chair just like in WWE and like smashes it over a knight's head, and it's fucking great. And like, I think that's part of the appeal of Shrek, is that like it is working in that fairy tale mode, but also it's like, here's a pop culture reference. And like I think that we'll get to this later on in the show, but like I really think that like Shrek is setting the stage for like the Marvelification, like the self-referential humor that is gonna like become predominant in the 2010s. But I think it starts, or at least in some way is popularized here.
I think you're so right, and it just sucks because I think the humor in Shrek is so earnest, right. And then what we end up getting is so like ironic and tries to put distance between itself and the thing it's doing.
Right.
Anyway,
right.
It's just like, I'm going to see Avril Lavigne live this summer.
You are?
Yeah, we're going to the tour.
That's fucking sick. That's gonna be so cool.
So it's her and Simple Plan, who, by the way, Simple Plan was my first concert. So
hell yeah, shout outs.
Absolutely jazzed. As soon as Without You comes on, I will be a different person. All right, so Shrek and Donkey go together to Fiona's tower, where they encounter a dragon. The dragon is very into Donkey because he starts complimenting her teeth, and that distracts her long enough for Shrek to rescue Fiona. Now, okay, hold on. So,
what's up?
So, in your notes,
yeah,
it does say, the dragon with the choker, quote, does it for me. Could you explain what that means?
Like, it makes me horny? This isn't...
So that is what you meant?
Yes, I think that's a very common fetish. I don't understand what the problem is here.
Oh, there's no problem. I just want that on the record.
No, that's fine.
Next time, you call me out for wanting to fuck that buff rabbit.
Okay, it's... I guess I have kind of lost the high ground here. I was going to say, well, it's Hugh That doesn't make it... That actually makes your position stronger by being like, the rabbit's based off Hugh Jackman. Yeah, mine's just like the dragon's on a leash, which is a little bit more depraved, I think, than wanting to be being into Hugh Jackman. So, okay, yeah, no, I mean, the point taken. I see the floor.
When Fiona demands to see Shrek's face, she's surprised to learn that he's an ogre. He was wearing a helmet the whole time. Fiona is irritated by Shrek's abrasive personality, because he's a dick. Though it's interesting because he is a dick, but at any given term, he is trying to make Donkey laugh. Like,
right.
He wants to be funny, but at the same time, he's like, don't look at me, which I find very relatable.
Right. I mean, that gets into the previous part where they're doing, before the montage, where they talk about how ogres have layers, right? So much of this movie is about Shrek trying to be like, I'm more than who I appear to be on the outside. And like, I think that's a great insight you bring up, which is like, yeah, Shrek is kind of an asshole, but he is doing it to, like make both, Donkey and also the audience laugh, right? He's doing it because, he is a funny guy with a sense of humor.
Exactly, and that's when he and Donkey have this conversation about how Shrek's whole life, the world has judged him before they ever get to know him, which Fiona overhears and then proceeds to feel bad about. Because she finds this relatable. I wonder why. So as they travel back to Duloc, every time I say Duloc, I get the little song stuck in my head.
Welcome to Duloc. What a perfect time. It's just, yeah. It's a small world, right?
It is. I also like the misdirect of the face rhyme too.
Please stay off of the grass, clean your shoes, wipe your face. Yeah, no, it's good. It's funny.
Good. It's good. Sometimes that's my kind of juvenile humor. If you make it rhyme, I'm like, tee.
Right. Like, I think we've aged out of a lot of like the fart and burp jokes that are going on in Shrek, but there are some that are actually like pretty good.
I've never liked fart jokes. Can I be real?
That's completely valid, right?
I truly, I just don't get it. I don't get why it's funny.
Yep.
As they travel back to Duloc, Fiona and Shrek learn to like each other. Fiona demonstrates that she's not a typical princess. She's not like other girls, but not like in a toxic way, just like in a fun way. Right. She's doing things like burping. She's eating roast rat. She's turning snakes into balloons.
There's like a famous Tumblr post that was like, man, what Fiona did to that snake was fucked up. And it is. She turns that snake into a balloon and turns that balloon snake into a dog. And that's criminal, honestly.
That's fucked up. That is I think that's what Republicans think we're doing to kids.
Yeah. Honestly, if Marjorie Taylor Greene came out onto the floor of the House and was like, we need to stop these transgenders from inflating our kids and turning them into swords and boats, I'd be like, okay, I think you're a monster, but at least I kind of get it now.
I get what you're saying right now. It's, God. She also beat the shit out of Robin Hood's marriage. Is Robin Hood French?
Yes, Monsieur Hood is. French? Yeah, he is textually Hood. I don't think so, right? Because Robin Hood is in the province of Nottingham, which is in England.
Okay, so they just did that to shit on the French for no reason.
Yeah, well, again, I don't know how this is not post 9/11 because we hated the French immediately following 9/11.
Oh yeah, freedom fries and shit.
Right.
I do love to bully the French. I think they deserve a little bit of bullying, but they do have a bunch of shit right, which is when they offered to raise the retirement age by 5 years, the whole country rioted. That's right.
Yes,
that's how you do it.
Here's the thing: we can't shit talk the French because they have free healthcare and education, and they get to retire at 59, unlike us, who gets to retire never.
Also, good bread.
Yeah, excellent bread. Listen,
solid bread.
Shout outs to the French.
Shout outs for this one time.
Listen, I got some other bones to pick with you, but for this, gotta give it
up. So she beats the shit out of Robin Hood's merry men, and this is where we find out she's black belt because she was born in that tower, just picked up skills.
It's really funny that she just self-taught herself karate.
What else would you do?
I just feel like karate is not something you can read a bunch of books and then get really good at.
Sounds like a skill issue. Princess Fiona could
clearly.
do it.
Yeah, no. I shout outs to Fiona, our practical queen.
And this is where Fiona also starts to get really cagey about being out in the dark. She insists that everybody sets up camp and takes a little breaky break. The day before Fiona enters Duloc, Shrek realizes he has feelings for her and hopes she feels the same. Donkey goes to talk to Fiona about it, but since the sun is down, he discovers that she has transformed into an ogre. Oh, God! She's been enchanted by a witch and discovers that she's been enchanted by a witch, and only true love's first kiss will reveal love's true form. I love this because she tries to explain to Donkey that it's her in an ogre's body, but Donkey thinks that the ogre ate Princess Fiona.
Yeah, no, I think Donkey is the Donkey humor doesn't always work for me in this, but that's a very funny joke where he's like, keep breathing, I'll get you out of there. And she's like, you're so fucking stupid. Listen to me.
That and I'm almost 100% positive half of this is Eddie Murphy improvising.
I mean, it's gotta be, right?
It's gotta be.
DreamWorks, I think is this Katzenberg who produced this? I think they're all completely competent and fine. But humor, I don't think it always is firing on all cylinders, but Eddie Murphy, I bet, crushed it in this role, Yeah,
I want to hear the lost tapes. I want to hear all the shit they didn't put in the movie that Eddie Murphy got to say.
Yeah, no, God.
There's also a scene that around this time we go back to visit Lord Farquaad to check in on him, see how he's doing, and he's in a bath. And he's listening to a music box rendition of Fiona's theme, and I'm over here my fucking professor's soapbox, that represents how artificial his love is for her.
Here's the thing, I think that's a valid read. We've been doing this goddamn show for 5 years at this point. I think that we've done enough media analysis to make reads like that. And I think that's a completely fair thing to claim, right? Sometimes I was watching a Quentin Reviews video, right, where he makes a valid point and then proceeds to blow a big raspberry because he's trying to undercut himself, trying to make himself not seem pretentious. And I really hate it when people do that because it's if you're making a point that is supported by the text, own that shit. Yeah, no, I think the method is paying off. We're good at media analysis now, and I'm glad you brought that point up.
That's true. We are good at media analysis now. Yeah, no, it does make it represent kind of the artificiality of his love for her, but also I like that she sings her own theme sometimes because it shows her like self-possession, right?
Right.
She is singing her theme. She is telling you who she is. Which I really like. I think the music stuff in this movie is really nice. And that's before we even get into, All Star and I'm a Believer. And the moment Hallelujah comes on, I was like singing along, just running around my apartment. It's good. Soundtrack is good.
Mm-hmm. It is.
All right. So Fiona and Donkey talk about how this transformation affects her life, and Donkey suggests that she tell Shrek. Shrek comes to tell Fiona how he feels, but he hears half of the conversation through the door and mistakenly believes Fiona thinks he's a hideous beast who no one could ever love, while she is talking about herself. Furious, he goes to fetch Farquaad's retinue, who pick her up in the morning. This is our least favorite type of conflict.
Right. It's just not interesting, right? It's just like, we need to have a lowest point, so we're just going to manufacture one, right? It is not supported by anything else that has happened in the story. It just sort of occurs to create this artificial rift. It happens in a ton of like romance shows, especially like Hallmark programs always do this. But it sucks, and I don't like it.
I would like to suggest an edit that would change very little, but would fix this little problem, which is Shrek goes to get the retinue, and then they solve the miscommunication on the spot, and it's too late, and Farquaad kidnaps Fiona. The rest of the movie proceeds.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's still right. I mean, I guess you don't get the part where Shrek and Donkey hash it out, but like, I don't think that.
You could get Donkey blaming him for doing that impulsively and not thinking.
Right. You would get a different confrontation, but I think, it avoids like the main thing, which is this completely manufactured conflict.
Right. So, if anybody wants me to punch up their scripts, I am available.
Listen.
I would love to do that. I'm a really good editor. I am a miserable drafter. All right. You gotta know your weaknesses. When Donkey tries to get Shrek to go after her, he shouts at Donkey, feeling that Donkey agrees with Fiona's assessment of Shrek as a stupid, ugly ogre, and then Shrek returns to his swamp alone, and that's where you get this like very montage of them just kind of sitting in their sad feelings, which I also quite liked. And the dragon comes back.
Yes. I wanted to talk about that like moment for a bit because like I thought it was the argument between Shrek and Donkey like was weirdly affecting for me because like I think the animators did a great job of showing how much like emotional pain Shrek is in. Like when he is yelling at Donkey, he looks like he's about to cry. Which I was like, holy shit, like that's pretty good. That's better than this movie deserved, I think.
I wonder when in the pipeline they did this, because some of the facial animation, I think especially Donkey's, looks particularly stiff sometimes. And I wonder if they, because when you make a feature film, for folks who aren't familiar at all with how these things get made, a lot of times you go out of order. Some people are going to work on some sequences later in the movie. Some people are going to work some sequences earlier in the movie. A lot of times it's not sequential, like you're not going from beginning to end of the film, and then there's revisions and rewrites and things like that. So I wonder if this was later when they had a better grasp on the rig or like made changes to the rig to make it more expressive.
Yeah, I mean, I would have no idea about that level of production specificity, but like, you know, it's coming at the very end of the project. It makes sense that if you're going to devote resources to like hitting those facial animations, you would do it in the last bit. I guess the beginning and the end of your story. So yeah, I'm really grateful that they spent a lot of time making that work because like, you know, even though it is a manufactured conflict, you can feel like more than the argument between Fiona and Shrek is this argument between Shrek and Donkey. Like Shrek really sounds like he's betrayed in this. He's just like, I can't, you know, I know that I've been like rude to you this entire time, but like, I really thought that we, you know, were getting along and I talked about my feelings to you. And now, you know, you didn't stand up for me with this conversation with Fiona. And he's just like, I'm out. This sucks. Fuck you all. You know, thought it was well done.
Yeah, and it's an appropriate reaction to Shrek's like first real heartbreak because he's protected himself from this kind of specific hurt for so long, and now the very thing he's been trying to shield himself from happened. So I quite like it. I thought it was a good sequence. And also, like, we've spent more time with Donkey than with Fiona.
Yes, that's true.
Which I like Fiona, but, factually speaking, we don't know as much about her.
Right.
And a lot of what we do know about her was delivered via montage.
Yep.
The three main cast are all sad for a bit. Fiona plans to get married by the end of the day to break her spell, but she's not thrilled about it. Donkey runs back into the dragon form, into the dragon from the castle, and, encouraged, goes to confront Shrek. They argue. Eventually, Shrek reveals why he's upset. Donkey solves the miscommunication and tells him Fiona was not talking about him, but is a true fucking friend and does not spill Fiona's secret. That is her story to tell.
Shouts.
She might actually be in love with him, is the other thing he does mention, just to kind of like scoot the thing along. They set out to stop the wedding with the help of the dragon. I like that also Donkey's like, you gotta do it at the right moment.
Yeah.
You gotta have a little sense of the dramatic.
And the way that they figure out when the timing is right is that Shrek is throwing Donkey in the air so he can look through, like, the rose window at the top of the church. So, like, when we're getting the shot from the position of the altar, we can see Donkey just kind of going up and down in the background. It's very funny. It's a good gag.
Right as Farquaad and Fiona are about to kiss, Shrek intervenes. Fiona transforms into an ogre as the sun goes down, specifically to show Shrek, which means Farquaad tries to have Shrek and Fiona arrested, but Donkey and the dragon arrive, and the dragon eats Farquaad. Farquaad is dead.
Yeah, I was like, I was watching this movie and I was like, man, I know that Charming ends up being like a recurring antagonist in Shrek, or at least he's a recurring character. But, like, why isn't Farquaad here? He was, like, iconic, right? And it's because of this. It's because they show him on screen being fucking murdered. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, valid.
Man's dead. But the giant Farquaad head from the Welcome to Duloc opening does make another appearance. Yeah. It's at the party.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's really fun.
It's trying to do limbo and it fails because it's too big.
That's really good.
So, okay, let's follow this really quickly. Let's break this down. Fiona is a princess.
Right.
Lord Farquaad is trying to marry her to become legitimized as king.
Right.
They don't kiss, but, like, they're married for all intents and purposes.
Sure.
So King Farquaad and Queen Fiona are married, and then Farquaad puts the crown on and then is eaten by the dragon, and then the next part proceeds to happen, which is Fiona does kiss Shrek. They realize she's going to stay an ogre because she's taking true love's true form. Mm-hmm. Wordplay. And then she does marry Shrek in the swamp. So that is King Shrek now.
I was going to say, right, like I think King Shrek actually comes up in the subsequent movies. I don't know if that's because he takes over Fiona's kingdom, but I was like, so is this an assassination or a coup or what's going on here? Because it's
an assassination.
Yeah, right. I don't think they take over Duloc, but they did just like depose the ruler. So like, I don't know what's going on. Shrek and Fiona, live happily ever after. But like in Duloc, it's anarchy, right? Now it's like fucking feudal, like Alexander the Great to the strongest, right? Now just everybody's doing secession wars, which is really funny to imagine. I want to read that fanfic about the Shrek succession wars after the Farquadian crisis of 1480 or whatever.
Well, we don't even know who Farquaad took over from. And
that's true. Yeah.
He also tried to do, he tried to move all those fairy tale creatures out. And then they're going to come back pissed.
Right. No.
So what does that look like?
Yeah, this is prime, revolutionary territory, right? I mean, I don't know. We'll see.
They're going to come back pissed, especially because the opening sequence is them getting sold by their human proprietors.
Yes, no, like getting paid by the state to be in prison. That's fucked up, yo.
That's fucked up. Donkey was worth 10 shillings.
So you played Lies of P, right?
It's good, yes.
Do you think that Lies of P is a sequel to Shrek? Do you think that that's what happens?
No, because, and I'll tell you why. No, because I don't want to. I want everybody to play Lies of P. It is a legitimately good game, so I don't want to spoil it. They made Geppetto a DILF in Lies of P for some reason, and Pinocchio is Timothée Chalamet.
Right,
and there is a portrait that you collect. It's called Portrait of a Boy, I think. And that is the thing that grows the nose.
It's like Dorian Gray situation.
Well, would you like to know who the painter of the portrait is?
It's not Geppetto?
It is a D. Gray.
Oh, okay, that's wild.
That is how on the nose, if you will.
Yeah, no.
So they will do anything to preserve how hot that twink is.
Valid.
Meanwhile, the Shrek franchise will do anything to make a fool out of that little puppet. So.
Yeah, okay, valid. But yeah, so if you have any IP power at DreamWorks or the studio that made Liza P, just shoot an email to mortifiedpod@gmail.com, and me and Leyla can, we'd love to do some crossover work with you all, maybe punch up the story and lore, and see if we can get something together for the DLC, even for Liza P. We'll help you out.
Or for that fucking The Wizard of Oz sequel.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I think we could do Liza P, Wizard of Oz. I think we could do a great, I mean, shit, Wicked's coming out this year. We'll talk.
I've never seen Wizard of Oz.
Really?
Yes.
We might have to take a detour. You might have to see Wizard of Oz.
Okay, let's do it.
Well,
that's what this podcast is
yeah,
for.
no, we'll talk about it. Yeah.
I make you play Zeta Saga.
Yeah, you make you watch one of the oldest classic movies in American history. Sure.
Great.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, did we want to talk about the wedding
talking points, baby?
The wedding sequence? Do we have anything else besides that? Besides Donkey's great Smash Mouth cover of the cover of I'm a Believer?
No, it's good. I love that. I love A Believer. It's a fun song. I like this movie. I cannot wait to watch Shrek 2. I love that fucking movie. It's good.
Right. I think this is a solid 7 out of 10. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Pretty good.
We're definitely not the demographic that it's for anymore, but I think it completely delivers on the themes that and the jokes it's trying to achieve, right? But yeah, I think from my memory, I haven't seen Shrek 2 since I watched it a bajillion times when I was a kid. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that in a couple of weeks.
So I have the Bonnie Tyler, the original I Need a Hero on my Spotify, and it came on while I was walking the dog the other week. Different pace. Started walking at a different pace. Yeah. I love that song. It's good. It's I love that movie is what introduced me to it. Yes,
me same. Yeah. So as far as our talking points, we brought up a little bit, but So I think Shrek is fundamentally about two things. First, it's about I think famously right, DreamWorks is founded by ex-Disney employees. I want to say specifically Katzenberg, right? Jeffrey Katzenberg, founds DreamWorks as a way to get back at Disney. I don't remember exactly what happened, if he was ousted or if he left or whatever reason, but Shrek is taking some direct shots at Disney here, with the Disneyland being Duloc, right? But also in the ways in which it takes fairy tale stories, right? We're coming right off of the Disney Renaissance. And so taking those classic stories and tropes and then being what if we, twist them a little bit, but still deliver, on that moral message, oh, okay, it's not actually, your humanity that makes you a good person, but your personhood and what you do with it. And I think that's very interesting. But yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts on the ways in which it's trying to take a pot shot at Disney?
Well, I think it's interesting that they haven't taken the pot shot at the princesses yet. Princess is his next movie.
Okay.
Because they haven't really, because they only really hint at Cinderella and Snow White existing.
Right.
But Fiona's the princess here. And the next movie, we meet all of the princesses during that kidnapping sequence. Is it 2 or 3? I'm pretty sure it's 2. So I think that's interesting, but also it's cool that happens. But I think the thing you brought up earlier was that this kicked off the whole subversion trope era, which I think it definitely was a big part of that. But I think it's interesting that because it's the first or one of the first things that did that, it felt fresh and cool. Right. And I think that's maybe in the zeitgeist. Its timing is part of the reason it's had the longevity that it's had. Right. Because if this came out on the other end of all because you remember there were a bunch of this fairy tale, but what if they're monster hunters, a Hansel and Gretel movie or whatever that came out? Right.
Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Slayer.
Yeah.
I mean, even Van Helsing to a certain degree is on the other side of edgy. Right. Yeah.
Our beloved Filmmaker.
Yeah, and then shout outs to a friend of the pod, Hugh Jackman. But like
shouts.
Well, like it really is like you see 9/11 happening, and then like the rest of the 2010s and into the 2000s and into the 2010s is like very edgy.
Yes.
And like, you know, the other side of edgy is being like irreverent and being like, oh yeah, this is, you're like, oh, this is so cool because it's, you know, it's not earnest anymore. Whereas like Shrek is earnest, right? I mean, it is kind of sticking its tongue out at Disney, but like Shrek is still fundamentally about a story about like the importance of being yourself and looking, you know, looking past somebody's, you know, superficialities into their heart or whatever. You know, you can tell we're Kingdom Hearts fans.
Right. It's earnest. It's deeply vulnerable. It's fun. It's a fun movie. It's a good kids movie. But yeah, no, you're so right that like, you know, it's one of a kind. And then if it came out on the other side of all of this like weird fairy tale shit, then I don't think it would have landed quite as hard as it did.
Right.
But it did. And now we have Shreks 2 through 4. We have all the Puss in Boots movies. I'm pretty sure we have Puss in Boots TV show also.
Oh, wow.
And then I watched Puss in Boots The Last Wish. That's a good movie.
Yes,
That made me cry.
I've heard that's a very good movie, so I'm excited to get to that eventually.
It's real good. Also, just really quick before I forget, you brought up Mr. Ackman again, and I just want to, if we ever run out of content ideas, which we never do, I think it would be fun to do like a Hugh Jackman roulette where we just like go down his IMDb.
I wouldn't hate that. I bet that dude's been in some good movies.
Or some real stinkers.
Listen, we watched The Greatest Showman already. I don't know how much worse it can get.
And well, I watched Pan.
Okay, valid.
And then I messaged you immediately, and I was like, Aaron, do not watch this movie.
And I thank you for that every day. Despite the Nirvana sequence, which I'm sure was incredible, I can't imagine it was better than that.
Well, sometimes part of this podcast is we take a lot of bullets for each other.
Yes.
Usually it's Aaron for me, but that one bullet, that was a mini nuke that I took to the chest.
Thank you so much for your sacrifice. The second thing that I think that Shrek is about how monsters are hot.
Correct.
I mean that just naturally, right? I mean, come on.
Yes.
You know, like I think this naturally comes on the other side of doing a conversation about how, like, you know, looking past somebody's superficialities is important. And there's also like, okay, if we're trying to do a story about how like the monstrous isn't really that monstrous and is in fact lovable, then you are going to be like, okay, well, if it's lovable, then maybe it's also sexy. Because that, you know, humans as a species have loved and continue to love to fuck. And, you know, we get this with the dragon. I mean, we get this with the bajillions of Shrek and Sonic impreg fan arts. You know, like, at the end of the day, I think this is a show that, like, if it had come out 10 years later, would it have hit the same? No. Would it have obliterated Tumblr? Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong. My take on this, as somebody who grew up a female in the early 2000s, and listen, those hard times back then to not look like a Victoria's Secret model.
Right.
It's gotten better. It's not gotten great. When someone who is in a position to be admired openly finds the unorthodox sexy, it gives everyone else the permission structure to then also find that sexy, or to understand that they do find that sexy, and now they can finally talk about it. And I think that's why queer people love monsters, right? Because if you can love a monster, you can love anything. Mm-hmm. And that is why you think the dragon is hot, and that is why I think that. Well, I've been on record on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, this is old news for you, right?
This is all news for me. I you didn't watch the last broadcast of Ascension. Okay, so my co-host Noah is very she makes a lot of horny jokes on that show. But on the last night, I did give myself permission that one of our monsters is a little bit fuckable. And I did look directly into the camera and just say would and moved on.
God, iconic.
So now there's a permanent record of me at work admitting to being a monster fucker.
Getting paid to talk about that. Yeah, no, shout outs. Yeah. That's incredible.
I've monetized being a pedantic pain in the ass and now apparently a monster fucker, so.
Yes, and that's the kind of career we should all aspire to have.
That's right.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about how we think that Shrek is setting up a lot of interesting things, but like, so as somebody who has not seen past Shrek 2, can you give me any insight to tell me, it does Shrek eventually turn, right? Does this become the thing the very thing it sought to destroy? Like, do you think that, do you have any insight into whether or not the franchisification of Shrek will eventually like kind of undercut all this like genuine like earnestness in the first movie?
I think it does go through like a weird dip period. I 3 and 4 are like fine if I remember correctly. I don't remember much about them. I know one of them has a teenager in it, but I can't remember what the point of any of it was. I think it's fine. And I think that like when you start getting into the spin-offs, like the Puss in Boots stuff, I didn't watch those either because I was like, I can't handle the like heavy leaning on that big eye thing he does. Right. I was like, you guys are you're killing the bit.
It's a little much, yeah.
But then once it gets far away from the core Shrek franchise, and once it kind of like has legs and no one's watching it, and the team can get away with some shit, you get something like The Last Wish, which is like a genuinely very good movie. So I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll be curious to see what we think on the other side.
No, absolutely. So yeah, join us on this project, listeners, as we see how Shrek evolves and changes as his history goes on. But now, as we near the end of the podcast, Leyla, for our marketing minute, if we were in the position of a Mr. Jeffrey Katzenberg, what do you think our Mortified revenge story looks like? What if we were like at a company? What company would we leave and then try to create like a franchise to ultimately destroy? Do you think we can pull that off?
Well, I don't know. Well, Shrek didn't destroy anything.
Sure, but like, it built a foundation on skewering a company that Katzenberg left.
That's true. I can't think of anything media-wise because my only thought, I immediately turn, I don't know what it is in the weather right now, but my first thought is like, oh, we leave Exxon and then just make chode ass solar panels and change the world and save it. Media wise, you have an interesting thing noted here, which is that we would try to subvert the BioWare RPG. Yeah,
and I don't want to, get too critical, but like I think we both have some thoughts on BioWare, right? I'd be interested to see like what we would do to take the BioWare formula and like make it a little bit different. Like I think, to paint with a broad brush, I think BioWare is strong because it has like pretty decent RPG elements that I broadly enjoy, but like the real meat of BioWare RPGs is in the way that you interact with your crew and your like supporting characters. And like I would love to try to do a project where it's like taking an RPG and then being like, okay, here's your cast of characters, but like what do you do when like they're maybe perhaps aware that their lives are centered around you? Like how like kind of interrogate the interiority of like your companions in a RPG. I think that might be an interesting way to be like, oh, this person is aware of their position and like feels weird about it.
That's okay. That's interesting. It's an interesting take on it because when I saw that note, what my immediate thought is you turn it into a strategy game where you play the companions and you have to influence the core character that you're all trailing.
I like that a lot. Like, basically like it's sort of like a court situation, like where you're all vying for the monarch's like a favor. But like instead,
you're limited by the motivations that you have as that set of characters, right? So like for example, the kind of scheming advisor wouldn't do the thing that like the earnest sidekick would do, right? So you're limited in your dialogue option by your background.
Right.
and you're not really your companion arcs are maybe pre-written, but the way you handle you have to like chess master the central character from the outside.
I love that a lot. And then if we would get the confrontation scenes where it's like them talking to each other about what they're trying to do. And I think that'd be really interesting just to see Garrus and Ashley from Mass Effect being like, so this is what you're doing with Shepard, huh? Interesting. You think that's going to work out for you? Like, I think that's really juicy.
It could be fun, is the thing.
Yeah.
So that's an idea. That's a free one. Game makers, if you make that, we want to play test it. And again, we can punch it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great idea. We're geniuses as per usual. Yeah. But I think that's pretty much the end of the episode. Do you have anything else you want to hit, Leyla?
Nar. I don't have any other thoughts, so we can just head on out. So you can find me at LEYLSCS on Blue Sky and Tumblr. By the time this episode airs, I will be, I think, on my first day at my new job, which is crazy. And what this hopefully means is that I can start working on my webcomic. Working title Astral Heart, which I'm thinking of changing. And then also I am going to finally start work, and I'm not joking, on my giant video essay about Zeta Saga. It will likely be the only video essay I ever make, but by God, I need to get all my thoughts about that game out into the world. Because it is insane, it's unplayable, but I love it so much, and I wish I would hope that it maybe other people will see it and appreciate it for being as batshit as it is. What about you?
You can find me on Twitter at AaronSXL, Blue Sky at AAVoigt, Tumblr at Monster Factory Fanfic, but my main site is aavoigt.com, where I talk about writing and tabletop RPGs, and I also have a video essay channel that's at aavoigt on YouTube, where I make video essays about tabletop RPGs. Our theme song is Obsolete by Keshco from the album Filmmaker's Reference Kit Volume 2. You can find more of their music at keshco.bandcamp.com. Leyla, how should we close out this wonderful first Shrek experience?
I believe.